The desert night was supposed to be silent. Out here, past the small town of Golden Valley, the Arizona State Prison in Kingman sat like a forgotten block of concrete dropped in the middle of nowhere. A place that tried to look secure but never felt truly alive. At night, the wind carried small dirt swirls across the ground, and the long outer fence lines hummed faintly with electricity. Guards called it static, but inmates called it luck. Static meant nobody was listening. The day shift had left hours ago. The night crew was small, tired, and spread thin, exactly how 3 inmates needed it to be. Daniel Renwick paced the floor of his dorm pod, his jaw tight, his eyes sharp. He had been studying guard patterns for months. How many guards walked each unit, how often they checked names, how long they lingered at the gate before moving on. Beside him sat Tracy Province, older, quieter, always looking like he was thinking 10 steps ahead. John McCluskey, the largest of the 3, leaned against the bunk frame, tapping his fingers, restless and angry. Renwick and Province handled the planning. McCluskey handled the force. Everything was ready. They only needed one thing, a signal. At 9:40 p.m., Renwick heard a faint vibration from the vent above his bunk. 3 short taps, then a pause, then one long tap. His eyes sharpened. "She's here," he whispered. McCluskey straightened. Province inhaled deeply, almost like he was trying to calm his heartbeat. On the far side of the prison, in a dirt patch with no cameras and barely any lighting, a blue Pontiac sedan sat waiting. Behind the wheel was Caslin Welsh, McCluskey's cousin and partner. She wasn't just an accomplice. She was the reason any of this had a chance of working. She opened the trunk and reached inside, pulling out something wrapped in a towel. A pair of wire cutters. Industrial cutters. The kind you don't buy in a hardware store, you borrow, or steal, from someone who won't ask questions. She crouched in the shadows at the edge of the outer fence line and waited. Inside the prison, everything moved fast. Renwick and Province slipped to the rear door of their housing area while McCluskey distracted 2 inmates who liked to gossip. Renwick had timed it perfectly. At 9:45, the unit officer walked out for his routine bathroom break. It lasted 5 minutes. Sometimes 6. That window was all Renwick ever wanted. He pushed the door open, and the 3 stepped into the hot desert air. The prison yard was quiet. Too quiet. In the distance, a lone guard tower cast a dim cone of dusty yellow light. But nobody was looking their way. Nobody ever did. Kingman wasn't known for strong staffing. Too many inmates, too few officers. Too many blind spots. They moved fast but steady, sticking to the shadows. Their feet crunched lightly in the gravel, each step measured. Province whispered, "Camera's dead. Power drops every hour. No one resets it." Renwick nodded. "Keep going." They reached the inner fence, tall, wired, topped with coils of razor ribbon that glittered in the moonlight. On paper, it looked secure. In reality, it buzzed weaker than it should. Renwick tested it with a strip of cloth. No spark. Just a soft hum. The prison had old wiring. Poor maintenance. And the recent monsoon storms had damaged several lines that were never fully repaired. Perfect. Province knelt and began to pull at a lower section that had been weakened days earlier. McCluskey pushed from behind, and the metal bowed just enough for them to slip through. On the other side, dust rose around them. The second fence, the outer perimeter, waited ahead. That fence was supposed to stop everything. But prison officials had ignored repeated reports that the alarm system kept malfunctioning. Caslin knew it. The inmates knew it. Almost everyone except the public knew it. Caslin made her move. She crouched at the back corner, pulled the cutters, and squeezed. The first snap echoed lightly, like a bone cracking. She froze. The guard tower light didn't move. No alarm. She cut again. And again. A square big enough to crawl through fell forward into the dirt. She backed into the shadows. Renwick was the first to reach the fence. He touched the cut section, then scanned the tower again. "Clear. Go." Province slid through the opening first. Renwick followed. Then McCluskey pushed his large frame through, grunting softly as the wire scraped the ground. They crouched low, hearts pounding but hands steady. This was the part nobody ever practiced for, the moment after the escape, when freedom is real, but danger is even more real. Caslin stepped forward. Her voice was low, steady. "Car's over there. We gotta move." McCluskey grabbed her arm, a quick squeeze of thanks, then released it. The 4 sprinted across the open dirt toward the Pontiac. The night swallowed their shapes, the desert wind covering their footprints. By the time they reached the car, the prison still looked calm, still asleep, still unaware that 3 inmates were about to disappear into the vast Arizona desert. Caslin opened the passenger doors. "Get in. We don't have long. Sunrise patrol hits early." The car doors slammed shut. Renwick looked back once, just once, at the long fences behind him. He had imagined this moment 1,000 times. It felt smaller than he expected. Quieter. But freedom always felt quiet. Caslin hit the gas. The Pontiac rolled out across the dirt road, leaving only tire marks behind. They were out. But freedom wasn't peaceful. Inside the prison, at 10:13 p.m., a guard noticed something strange. One of the fence alarms flickered on his monitor, then shut off again. He tapped the screen. Nothing changed. He shrugged and went back to paperwork. 5 minutes later, another officer doing rounds noticed the lower section of the inner fence looked bent. He froze, leaned in, touched the metal. Then his stomach dropped. He ran. Within minutes, radios crackled to life. Officers sprinted across the yard. The night tower lights swept across empty ground. Alarms began to scream through the prison. 3 inmates were missing. And nobody knew how long they'd been gone. In the Pontiac speeding toward Interstate 40, Caslin turned the wheel sharply to avoid a small ditch. McCluskey steadied himself. Renwick pulled a map from his pocket. Province watched the headlights carve a narrow path through the dark desert highway and whispered, "They'll come for us hard." McCluskey smirked. "Then we stay ahead of them." Renwick didn't smile. He didn't need to. He looked out the window and saw nothing but black desert stretching forever. No houses. No cops. No helicopters. Just emptiness. But emptiness can be dangerous. Up ahead, a freight train rumbled across a distant crossing, slow but heavy. Caslin pressed the gas harder. They had to beat it. If the train cut them off, it would trap the car in open view long enough for a patrol to spot them. The Pontiac roared forward. The train got closer. Caslin's hands tightened on the wheel. Renwick whispered, "Don't slow down." McCluskey braced himself. Province closed his eyes. The Pontiac shot through the crossing just as the train thundered past behind them, the blast of noise exploding into the night like a warning. They made it, but barely. Caslin exhaled. That's the last easy part. Renwick folded the map. The manhunt starts now. And in the desert behind them, under the buzzing fence lights of a prison that was never as secure as it claimed, officers were already shouting orders, counting inmates, calling state police, and waking supervisors. 3 inmates were gone. And they were only in the first hour of their escape. The train's roar faded behind them, but the sound still clung to the air inside the Pontiac like a warning. Caslin kept her eyes locked on the dark 2-lane road stretching ahead. They had barely escaped being trapped, and everyone in the car felt it. The engine hummed, the wheels hissed over the asphalt, and no one spoke. Not at first. Renwick finally broke the silence. "That train bought us 15 minutes. Maybe 20. No more." Province leaned his head against the window. In the faint glow of the dashboard lights, his face looked pale, almost hollow. "They're already counting heads back there." McCluskey snorted. "Let 'em count. We're gone." Renwick turned slightly, his voice sharp. "Gone isn't safe. Gone just means the chase starts now." Caslin tightened her grip on the steering wheel. She wasn't scared, but she was tense. Her foot pressed harder on the gas as the Pontiac climbed a small hill. From the top, they could see the vast desert stretching in every direction, empty, open, and deadly if you got stuck out there. Province whispered, "We need distance. A lot of it." Caslin nodded. "We're heading for the service road behind I-40. Less traffic, fewer eyes." McCluskey grinned, cracking his knuckles. "As long as it ain't a cop road." "It's not," Caslin said. "Trust me." But far behind them, in the prison they had just escaped, nothing was calm anymore. Guards sprinted across the yard with flashlights. Radios exploded with static and overlapping voices. 3 confirmed missing. Perimeter breached. Start search team 1, North Yard. Activate statewide alert. The prison warden, a man who rarely hurried, stormed into the control room with his shirt halfway buttoned. When he saw the cut fence on the monitor, his face drained of color. "How long?" he barked. "At least an hour, sir. Maybe more." "An hour," he repeated, stunned. "They could be anywhere." He slammed a hand onto the desk, and the whole control panel shook. Meanwhile, the Pontiac reached the service road. Caslin turned off her headlights for a moment, letting the darkness swallow them. The desert night became a black ocean around the car. "Careful," Renwick muttered. Caslin flicked the lights back on, just the dim beams. "Enough to see. Not enough to be noticed." "We're fine," she said. "I've driven this stretch 100 times." Province breathed slowly, trying to settle his nerves. He wasn't made for running. He knew that. But he had made his choice. And once you choose escape, there's no turning back. McCluskey, though, he was alive with excitement. He rolled his shoulders like he was warming up for something bigger, something violent. Freedom made some men calm. It made others dangerous. They drove for nearly 30 minutes without passing a single car. The road dipped between small hills and clusters of desert brush. The sky above was wide and star-filled. It would have been beautiful.